The next control flow construct we're going to look at is the do-while loop, or the do-while statement. The difference between a do-while loop and a while loop, or while statement, is that the test, the relational expression, is at the bottom of the loop rather than at the top. Let's look at the general form of the statement first, and then we'll look at an example. We start off with the keyword do, followed by an open curly brace to signify the beginning of a block. Then inside the block, we'll have our set of statements. And I'll add to this statement to modify control var. Remember that in a while loop, we always have to have one statement that modifies the control variable so that the loop will eventually become false. We'll put a semicolon there just to make it standard. Then we close the block, assuming that that's the last statement. Then we had a while, and then our relational expression, and then a semicolon. As I mentioned before, the main difference between a while loop and a do-while loop is that in a do-while loop, the set of statements will always be executed at least one time, even if the relational expression proves to be false the first time we test it. That's because the statements are executed before the relational expression is ever even evaluated. Let's look at an example or two to see how the do-while loop works. Let's begin by doing a simple program that sums the first 10 integers. So we're going to create a variable for the sum and set it to 0. Then we're going to create a variable for the num, or number, and set it to 1. Now we're ready for our loop. So we write do, and then an open curly brace. Then we modify the sum by writing sum plus equal num. Simple enough. Then we write our statement to modify the loop control variable, although we haven't actually established that yet. It is going to be num. Then we close off the block, because that's the last thing we have to do. Then we write our while segment of the statement, which is while num is less than 11, or it could have been less than or equal to 10. And then we'll see out the sum and an indel right here. So let's run that program. Let's build and run it. And we see it gives us 55, which is exactly what we expected. So you see that the interesting thing about this loop is that no matter what the value of num is, when we go into the loop, both statements are going to be executed one time. So we could set num to 111 and build and run the program, and we're still going to get an answer. If we'd have written that as a while loop, it would never have gone into the loop, because right off the bat, 111 is not less than 11. And the relational expression would have been false, and the program would have just jumped to outside the while loop. So there is quite a bit of difference between a do-while loop and a while loop. In the next lesson, we're going to examine how a while loop can be rewritten in a do-while loop.